Ukraine's withdrawal from Avdiivka has certainly been a morale blow to the Ukrainian forces, but it may be part of a larger plan to trap Russian forces. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. So here's the update from the last 24 hours. You can see Russian forces continuing to advance outside of Avdiivka, towards Orlivka. You can see they, as we discussed, had taken the village of Lastochkine and have advanced somewhat, again, across this largely open ground, occupying these three windbreaks here and approaching the town of Tonenke. There's also been some limited movement here near Berdaichi, but you can see this is really the area where we've seen the most advances by Russian forces outside of Avdiivka. And while it's certainly not a good look for Ukrainian forces to be yielding this much territory, I actually think this is all part of a Ukrainian plan to maximize casualties and minimize the risk of Russian forces gaining momentum. And I'll explain it here in a sec, right? So here's the one part of the evidence for me, is you can see here that according to this news, Ukrainian forces reportedly have withdrawn from Lastochkine village to hold what they describe as the Orlivka-Tonenki-Berdichi line of defense. And you can see here's the town of Berdichi, here's Orlivka, here's Tonenki. And then, of course, shortly thereafter, an hour later, Russian Ministry of Defense pats themselves on the back saying, "We did it. We took Lastochkine. Great job, team." But when we look at the terrain, you'll see that this is actually sort of the right call by the Ukrainian armed forces, right? If you're looking, of course, before we get into that, to make the right call, you want to check out for your own energy, your own ability to tackle what the day throws at you. You want to check out Strike Gum. Strike Gum is my energy drink alternative. It's gum. Each one of these little pieces contains all the caffeine of an energy drink, 0 grams of sugar, and 100 milligrams of alpha GPC for further cognitive enhancement. Tastes great. And we have veteran discounts. We have military discounts. We have first-time customer discounts. So check us out at strikegum.com. We've actually raised over $5,000 for Ukrainian civilian charities. And we are looking for this next production run to maybe support units in the Ukrainian military, but we're still trying to work out what the mechanics and legality of that would be. So if you're interested, of course, check us out, strikegum.com. Okay, here's what I wanted to show you guys. This is a topographic map of Avdiivka. Now, let me orient you guys real quick to the battlefield here. Here's Lechtoki, right? Here's Tonenki. Here, we'll let you guys triangulate this a little bit, right? You see Tonenke here, right? There's this cluster of buildings to the northwest, sort of the center of Tonenki, and there's these two rivers running along the line. Here's Lastochkine. So we look over here, you can see Lastochkine, right? Here's the two clusters of buildings for Tonenki, right? Here's Orlivka, and here's Berdichi. Now, notice these two lines here, right? This line right here represents the 200-meter elevation topographic line. And you can see that actually this represents the high ground. These areas that are gray represent some of the lowest low ground. This is a topo map. So the takeaway from this that you should have is that there's high ground to the east, and then it begins to fall, right? As we follow this river, the terrain becomes a downward slope all the way to Orlivka, which is actually the lowest of the low ground. And you can see here, it's actually swampy in this area because all the water from the region drains into it. That's how low this area is. But you can see here that there's basically three rivers that intersect here in Orlivka. You've got this river or series of dams here that run sort of to the southeast. You've got this that run east, and you have this river to the north. But look what happens when you get just a little west of the river. The elevation very quickly spikes. It goes from the lowest point of the terrain and quickly rises back up to 200 meters, which means that if you are the Russian forces right now, right, and you're taking somewhere like Lechtorkine, this is a really bad spot. Look at it. It's actually surrounded by Russian-controlled heights. So this is a place where Ukrainian defenders are in the bottom of a fishbowl. You can see, literally, it's all gray here. It's very, very low terrain. So these guys are stuck in the bottom of a fishbowl if they decide to try to hold it. So instead, Ukrainian armed forces have likely looked at this map and said, listen, this is not where we're going to fight. We are going to delay the Russian forces, fight what's called a delaying action, in which you engage the enemy forces only to buy other forces time. And what's likely happening is they are likely having probably infantry forces here inside these towns, Berdichi, Orlivka, Tonenki, as being sort of strong points. And then they're likely arraying indirect fire assets like artillery and mortars on these heights where they can provide overwatch and cover for these infantry forces. And so you're likely going to see Russian forces, if the Ukrainian strategy holds, they're going to have a tough time crossing these large open areas as they try to reach these Ukrainian strong points. But here's the thing, even if they can get here, as long as the Ukrainians can keep them to the east side of this river, I mean, look, the Russians are going to have to come to this river. They're going to have to conduct a river crossing while the Ukrainians sit above them looking down with perfect line of fire. It's a really bad spot for Ukrainian forces. The hardest part for them is going to be integrating them with the existing defensive lines, right? But that's a pretty established process right now. So that's what I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see them. The Ukrainians know that they can't afford to burn supplies on a lot of these pointless defensive stands. So they're going to choose terrain that's going to give them the maximum bang for their buck. And frankly, when you can occupy the heights, look down on an enemy who has to cross a water obstacle, right? You can't drive a tank through these kind of deep rivers, especially not in the Ukrainian springtime, right? This is an area with a lot of rain. All of these little ponds and rivers are full. So the Russians have their work cut out for them. And likely Ukrainians are also probably, I suspect, going to try to hold Orlivka. But even Orlivka, they may sit there and say, listen, this is not that valuable a town, and we'd be better off just fighting on the western side here of this operation. I mean, you can see that fighting along this river particularly, very strong defensive positions. I mean, look at this. Russian attacking forces would have to cross a river and then attack straight up a hill. It's really terrain that favors the defender so much that even the most basic commander, even the most vodka-drunk Russian commander would know that this is where you want to array your forces. So I think that's what Ukraine is doing. I think we're going to see, likely, we are going to see continued Russian advances up to this river line here, all the while Ukrainian forces inflicting a maximum amount of casualties. They may choose to fight in Orlivka, or they may just conduct a withdrawal up to this eastern portion here, or western portion here. They may simply assume some risk at this Tonenke area, but if they had to, again, occupying this region here to Omansky, very, very, just extremely favorable defensive conditions. And they would be yielding a small village and a bunch of empty farmland. So all in all, I think this bodes that the fears that this is a Russian breakthrough and that Ukrainians are being routed may actually just be a little bit exaggerated. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Be sure to hit like and subscribe on the video so the YouTube algorithm knows I make good content. And I will see you guys over on combatvetnews.com tomorrow for our latest video. Cheers.